So, how does it work? Basically, there are four basic steps to explain the process of SEO. So, first of all, you index it. So, what we mean by that is once you have a website, it doesn't necessarily mean it's on Google. So, what you have to do is you have to almost tell Google, hey, I've got a website. So, if you think about it, it's like a big library. So, Google is a big library, and we're putting our book in that library so they can look at it and other people can take it out. So this is what we talk about indexing. Most websites have this function these days. So WordPress and the CMS platforms we spoke about in the last module, they'll have this function now where they'll say, do you want to index it on Google? And it's almost like a tick box exercise because obviously these CMS platforms and the website builders, they know that we want to put our information on Google. So this allows it to be indexed. So first of all, you've given basically permission for Google to look at your website. And so there you go, please look at it. Then the customer will do a search. So Google now has indexed your website. It knows what's on your website. Remember in the previous module we talked about making it easy and simple and having a structure to it. We'll talk more about that today as well. But you want to index it. Once you've indexed, then the customer searches for you something. So once the customer searches or an audience searches for something, Google does that thing. Do you know when you read in the corner and it says we've got 530,000 results in the last half second. So it's kind of gone into its it's gone into its library of information, extracted what you've given it and the other website builders have, or the other websites have, and they've worked out what people might be looking for. So then based on the algorithm or the process, Google have a process of many different ways of how they work out what people are looking for, which we will also talk about later. Once you've worked out the results, so look at the search, the algorithm then looks at the different websites, and then you have the results. So you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, that 4-step process is all about going from indexing your website to appearing in the results. And obviously, there's a factor that come into play. So index it to make sure Google can see it. Then the search comes in. Then the algorithm will decide what the person is looking for and what they need to be served with in terms of the search or on the search or on Google. I'm going to refer to Google because obviously they'd be a market players, but as I mentioned earlier, remember you remember your audience and your target audience and which country you might be in. And then once they've got the algorithm, then the results come in. And obviously, everyone wants that number one spot at the top of Google. So here's the top 10 SEO ranking factors. So these are by basically Google have literally hundreds of factors that they decide in terms of which website appears where on their search engine. But obviously, they don't tell everyone what these are. They give you clues. They tell you what your website should have on it, what it shouldn't have on it. But here, Optin Mos easy for me to say, Optin Monster have given a top 10 ranking factors. So a secure and accessible website. Remember in the last module, we talked about SSL certificates. 2, page speed, including mobile speed. So how quickly can it load up? Remember, we're quite impatient these days, aren't we? We want something to load up very quickly. Mobile friendliness. No one wants to come to a website and have to start pinching and pulling it to be able to read it. You should be able to do it quite easily. The domain, number 4, domain age, URL, and authority. Obviously, websites that have been around a longer time have a higher ranking, and not just because of the content, but because of who they are. So, for example, Forbes magazine or BBC or something like that, regardless of what you think of them, they have an authority. Number 5, optimized content. So the content should be improved on a continuous basis. Technical SEO. So is it technically nice? Is it easy to use the website? Do you have functions and features that people want? The user experience, or what does it feel like to use the website? Are people nicely gliding on it? Are they having to click on things over and over again? What is the user experience like? Because remember, Google wants to make your life easier for you. So they want websites that make life easier for the people that are searching for things. Links, backlinks, outbound, and internals. What we mean by links, this is not just what we're going to talk about later, like backlinks, which is, for example, if you have a website and I think, wow, that's really good, and I mention it on my website, remember that's a backlink. Outbound links would be me saying, I read this article on Forbes. So I'd mention Forbes and it would be an outbound link to Forbes. And then you'll also have internal links. And I'll say, if you have any more questions, go to our contacts page and there'll be a link to the contact page. So you can see the exact 3 examples there. Backlink would be mm, an endorsement from another site. Outbound is you mentioning the website on your page and having a link going to theirs. And internal would be another page for on your website. Number 9, social signals. So what's being said on social media? Is it being shared on social media? Are people talking about it? This is a factor. And 10, real business information. So what do we know about this business? And is it basically, yeah, I mean, the real business information. What do we know about you? So here's something we've all seen before, many times. So how search results appear. So the big companies do the simple things right. So you can see here, there's different examples here. So you can see here, we've done a search for Apple. Apple's comes up here, and you can see these different things that we're going to talk about later. There's site links here, the different things that people find important. There's news. There's what we call the knowledge panel. And there's also what we call local SEO. So if I've typed in Apple, then I've scrolled down here, I'm being told about the local Apple stores in my area, how far they are. So you can see this is, I mean, this is quite good with SEO actually. There's a local Apple shop in my area. They ranked quite highly for Apple, which is quite impressive by them. So this company's done something right here. I am fixed. So you can see I've typed in Apple, and on my locations, they've appeared before the Apple store themselves. Obviously, Google trying to make it easy for him. So maybe Google thinking maybe he wants to fix his phone or whatever it might be. But this is what you see. And once again, the big companies are doing these simple things right. Apple aren't being arrogant and saying, well, we're just going to keep that out there. They've got information on the website. They're making sure you can see there's information there for the website. So what's in the detail? So the big companies, as I say, do the simple things right, and we'll see this throughout the course. So let's say, for example, you type in birthday cake recipe. We have things called schema markup, which has been added. What is schema markup? Once again, we'll touch on that later. But can you see here the important things about this cake? So the time it takes to cook, the rating, the ingredients. So this is something that we will do on our website to highlight to Google to say, hey, I've got a cake recipe on my website, and I've also highlighted the important things that the customer's interested in. So once again, remember, this is like a Google library. Make it easy. It's like a content page. Have content page at the start. Well, like when you read a book, you read the content at the start, and it's easy to find what you're looking for. In the same way, your website needs a structure and a map and a method so Google can extract the information it needs. And you can see another example here of schema markup. And this is obviously the page URL. So whenever you search for something, you'll see the page URL, the page title, and the meta description. And you'll see, and we're going to be talking about things here later on that make it easy for you to, well, basically big companies getting doing the basics right. So you can see here, Apple have mentioned the word iPhone in the page title. They have mentioned iPhone in the URL. And look at this in the meta description, iPhone 15 Pro, iPhone 15 Pro Max. And they keep mentioning they mention the word iPhone. Why didn't they just write iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max? They put in the word iPhone again because it makes a difference. Remember, it's in the part of the meta description. So this is, once again, we'll be touching more of this later on about how you can do these things. But what I'm trying to show you is that customers, I mean, the big companies do the basics right. So the Google algorithm. I touched earlier on just a little bit about the Google algorithm, and let's hear a little bit more about it. So the Google algorithm is constantly changing to improve search engine results and the quality. This is the impact. This is impacted by the needs of users, advancements in technology, and to prevent scam tactics. So basically, what Google is saying that we create this algorithm so people are finding what they're looking for. Imagine if you were looking for something on Google and the spam website kept on coming up because they've been able to manipulate the Google search. You'll be annoyed at the website, but you'll also be annoyed at Google. And what will happen over time is you'll just stop using it. So obviously, Google have a vested interest to make sure you find what you're looking for. So, how does search engines work, or how does search work? And I'm going to show you a little bit about that now. There is a link to this within the course content. So if you want to watch the video directly, you can do. What I'll do is I'll just play it now. It's about 5 minutes long, but basically it basically tells you how Google works. I'll put myself on mute while you're watching it so it doesn't disturb you. If it does cut out, remember you've got the link there as well to watch it directly.
Every day, billions of people come here with questions about all kinds of things. Sometimes we even get questions about Google search itself, like how this whole thing actually works. And while this is a subject entire books have been written about, there's a good chance you're in the market for something a little more concise. So let's say it's getting close to dinner and you want a recipe for lasagna. You've probably seen this before, but let's go a little deeper. Since the beginning, back when the homepage looked like this, Google has been continuously mapping the web, hundreds of billions of pages, to create something called an index. Think of it as the giant library we look through whenever you do a search for lasagna or anything else. Now, the word lasagna shows up a lot on the web. Pages about the history of lasagna, articles by scientists whose last name happened to be lasagna, stuff other people might be looking for. But if you're hungry, randomly clicking through millions of links is no fun. This is where Google's ranking algorithms come into play. First, they try to understand what you're looking for, so they can be helpful even if you don't know exactly the right words to use or if your spelling is a little off. Then they sift through millions of possible matches in the index and automatically assemble a page that tries to put the most relevant information up top for you to choose from. Okay, now we have some results. But how did the algorithms actually decide what made it onto the first page? There are hundreds of factors that go into ranking search results, so let's talk about a few of them. You may already know that pages containing the words you search for are more likely to end up at the top. No surprise there. But the location of those words, like in the page's title or in an image's caption, those are factors too. There's a lot more to ranking than just words. Back when Google got started, we looked at how pages link to each other to better understand what pages were about and how important and trustworthy they seemed. Today, linking is still an important factor. Another factor is location, where a search happens. Because if you happen to be in Ormea, Italy, you might be looking for information about their annual lasagna festival. But if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, you probably aren't. When a web page was uploaded is an important factor too. Pages published more recently often have more accurate information, especially in the case of a rapidly developing news story. Of course, not every site on the web is trying to be helpful. Just like with robocalls on your phone or spam in your email, there are a lot of sites that only exist to scam, and every day scammers upload millions more of them. So just because instantvirusdownload.net lists the words lasagna recipe 400 times, that doesn't mean it's going to help you make dinner. We spend a lot of time trying to stay one step ahead of tricks like these, making sure our algorithms can recognize scam sites and flag them before they make it to your search results page. So let's review. Billions of times a day, whenever someone searches for lasagna, or resume writing tips, or how to swaddle a baby, or anything else, Google software locates all the potentially relevant results on the web, removes all the spam, and ranks them based on hundreds of factors like keywords, links, location, and freshness. Okay, good time to take a breath. This last part is about how we make changes to search, and it's important. Since 1998, when Google went online, people seem to have found our results pretty helpful. But the web is always changing, and people are always searching for new things. In fact, 1 in every 7 searches is for something that's never been typed into the search box before, by anyone, ever. So we're always working on updates to search, thousands every year. Which brings up a big question. How do we decide whether a change is making search more helpful? Well, one of the ways we evaluate potential updates to search is by asking people like you. Every day, thousands of search quality raters look at samples of search results side by side, then give feedback about the relevance and reliability of the information. To To make sure those evaluations are consistent, the raters follow a list of Search Quality Evaluator guidelines. Think of them as our publicly available guide to what makes a good result good. Oh, and one last thing to remember. We use responses from raters to evaluate changes, but they don't directly impact how search results are ranked. So there you have it. Every time you click search, our algorithms are analyzing the meaning of the words in your search, matching them to the content on the web, understanding what content is most likely to be helpful and reliable, and then automatically putting it all together in a neatly organized page designed to get you the info you need. All in, 0.81 seconds? Wow. Anyone else ready for dinner?
So hopefully that was a really good introduction to what Google does. In the previous slides, we've talked a little bit about the different types of, we've talked a little bit about the algorithm, why we're using search, why we use SEO, and hopefully that's a nice video that helps explain or sets the, well, I suppose sets the foundations of what we're going to be discussing regarding SEO. So now let's move on to the different types of SEO. So there are three main areas of SEO, or the three main types of SEO, and these are the ones that we're going to be focusing on. There's what we call on-site, off-site, and technical. What I would also do is I would caveat that and also say there is also an element of local SEO. When we say local SEO, we're talking about companies, and this doesn't apply to every single company, but if you're a company in the local area and you're selling products and services to local people, then the local element will help. If you remember when we went back into the previous couple of slides where we have I am fixed, that's local to me, so they've got good local SEO. So you can see how local SEO is, and we've talked a little bit about it. So yes, we do have on-site, off-site, and technical, but don't forget about the local side. Okay, so let's have a look at these areas.